Hello, dear YouTube Sangha. Welcome to another episode on the channel of Peace of Mind. I'm Dharma Peace.
I'm Dharma Ocean.
I'm Dharma Sense. Welcome to our channel.
All right, guys. It's been a little while. We had a little bit of a hiatus, and I was thinking along the lines of a steps along the path kind of episode, just to tell everybody what we've been up to, how we've been keeping a peace of mind through, the world's trials and tribulations. Not to dwell on anything, just to kind of, talk about our practice and how it improves our lives.
Very good.
Okay.
You want to give us a kind of a lead off? Anything that you have in mind for
Um,
peace? You've got big life changing events going on.
yeah, I'm actually. Thank you for mentioning that. I am planning on moving back to Japan. I used to live in Japan, and now I'm going back to be with my wife. Like, it's crazy to say, but it's a big change for me. Wasn't really the trajectory that I had planned, but here we are. Now I'm fully living through anicca, impermanence, So,
When's the wedding?
well, to accommodate other people, we're planning on celebrating in the month of April, and I believe it'll be like a Japanese style wedding, so it'll be within from the 6th. So, um, you know,
Okay, so cherry blossoms will be blooming, like
yeah,
in your background.
that's right. Yeah, that's the idea. We wanted to actually marry April, in April 6th. Um,
Yeah,
eh, but
maybe in one of the parks with plenty of cherry
yeah,
blossoms.
right, right. So we are married, but we will have the ceremony and the wedding um, next April. So I'm very much
Oh,
looking
you're
forward
already
to it.
married. It already happened.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is that, um, yeah, I'm actually in the Japanese registry now. Uh, so yeah, so
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
it's believe it or not, my wife is amazing. So uh, now I'm just waiting on my immigration papers to go over there, and
Yep.
I'll, and
Cool.
I'm going there.
Congratulations.
Yeah, regardless. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. And
And Ocean, you can talk with authority about the blossoms because you have visited Japan. In fact,
Oh
recently,
yeah, yeah.
last year.
Last year I went in the spring, and yeah, it was awesome. I went to Shinjuku Gyoen for Ohanami cherry blossom viewing,
yeah,
and it was really cool.
nice.
And
So
Peace, is
yeah,
that
I
what we
would.
see behind you? Are those cherry blossoms on that?
Yeah, um, yeah. This is actually a representation of Chureito. It's a tower that faces Mount Fuji.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like one of those shrine slash temple blends in Japan. So has both Buddhist and Shinto influences. So uh,
Fantastic.
yeah, and I've been there with my now wife. Back we weren't we were just friends then, but we did a lot of Buddhist activities together, including writing sutras in the Japanese calligraphy style called shodo, and we uh, chanted Heart Sutra, did all kinds of things like that, and um, so we're very much uh, involved in that sort of thing. And my wife wants to support me in my seeking ordination in the Pure Land sect, so Jodo Shinshu,
A lot
as
of
we of course.
changes going on.
Yeah,
Big thing.
but that was always like we had always like talked about that my the steps along my path as far as
Mhm.
whether I would be an aspirant, if I wanted to ordain as a this kind of monk or that kind of thing, and so I figured, Pure Land is the way to go for me.
Mhm.
Um, speaking,
Now, curious, for people maybe not familiar, ordination, does that require time at a seminary necessarily, like a Buddhist seminary, or do you
ah,
study under one particular master? How does it work in particular?
actually, that's a good question because people won't know that so readily. Um, well, it really just depends on the sect that you belong to or lineage, more specifically
Hmm.
like the lineage actually. So, and actually, uh, Ocean here has received Jukai, right? Like you received like a minor ordination under in Zen-do, right? So um,
Yeah, I don't. It's not an official ordination. The one after Jukai. So Jukai means in Japanese
right,
receiving the precepts, right? That's when you
right,
officially make a commitment to be like a Zen practitioner. And after that, there's another ceremony, Tokudo, and
yeah,
that is when you
Tokudo,
officially ordain as a monk. In the
right.
Zen tradition, at least, I'm not sure if Pure Land probably has their own, thing.
Well, it is
But
also called Tokudo in Pure Land as well. So
okay, I see.
um, yeah, so I that is what I actually intend to do um, in Japan. So
Sure.
yeah,
Great.
and
Interesting, Ocean. When you're doing that in particular with Zen, in the Zen tradition, you're taking precepts that are above and beyond the precepts for becoming officially a Buddhist, like the five that we took. Is that,
It kind of not really, in my opinion. I think they're
are
basically
there
the
more
same
than
precepts.
five?
There are 16, which
16.
sounds like a
Okay.
lot. However, they're really the same five precepts, just expanded. And like so, like there's some precepts in the original five, like the one about speech. It's basically right speech is what it boils down to, about not lying, no slanderous speech, and saying things that are helpful, that kind of thing. All that falls into the same precept, but in the Zen tradition, there's like maybe two or three different precepts about speech, and it's more specific, basically. Um, Whereas the original five precepts are kind of like a little more general and compact.
hmm
Right. That makes sense.
yeah, I actually like that when you have precepts and then they sort of branch out or they get more comprehensive because people always have questions and then that's just an opportunity to learn, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, we discussed
Yeah.
before that like doing mindfulness trainings about the precepts actually lead us into deeper understanding of the Dharma, right? And it's less about like telling people what to do and wagging your finger, and it's more about just having some kind of guidance for a wholesome practice, right?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, that's kind of how I view it too. I don't view it. People make the comparison frequently to like the Ten Commandments, but
Mm-hmm.
it's really not like that. That's only like a valid comparison if you come from a Christian background and you're just encountering it and you're like it's kind of like the Ten Commandments. To me, it's not really like that because the Ten Commandments are basically instructions from God that you have to do this or else you will basically be a sinner and be punished.
Right,
And it's not
Just
quite
giving
like that
them
in
a
Buddhism.
framework that they can sort of understand, but it's not really that.
right, and
Yeah, it's like
It's
the consequences are like a personal thing that come from doing immoral deeds. Those are
mm-hmm.
the consequences you get, not from like religious or like divine punishment from a god. Like the punishment you receive for killing someone could be going to jail. That's not a divine punishment. That's like a legal consequence from having done something wrong, right?
Right,
Killing
right,
right.
someone.
Karma is a different concept, essentially,
mm-hmm.
than divine devotion to a deity or,
Absolutely. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I should say that I want to add to this stat. First of all, I'm writing a book, not to not to steal
Plug.
attention or anything, but in my book writing, I started to research Buddhist pedagogy. Because I'm a teacher for my profession, and I got really deep into that. And then, well, in Buddhist pedagogy, there is actually like a term for the kind of thing that, like the kind of sensibility or the sense of situational awareness that you're supposed to generate in the Buddhist practice, which is called hiri-ottappa. And that it's a I think it's a less circulated term, but it means something to do with like a sense of like, for lack of a better word, like almost like guilt or remorse or like just knowing that you messed up and under
For sure.
that willingness to change your habits and your and that would really harkens back to the Buddhist teaching of Rahula, his son, who became an aspirant in the Sangha. And so anyway, there's a
Yeah,
lot of reference
you
to
said
that.
something quite important though about remorse, right? Because like,
Yeah.
what better motivator to change your behavior rather than the things I do just make me feel bad? Like I don't
hmm
like how I feel when I do a particular deed. If I don't know, let's say I stole something and I feel, oh man, I feel so bad because I stole something. It wasn't mine. I took it anyway. and now I want to do the right thing and give it back.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you pay attention to how you feel when you act in certain ways, you'll notice, oh, well, I kind of feel bad when I do things that hurt other people, so maybe I should try to stop hurting other people. And really, that's
Right.
what the precepts are about, right?
Right.
Not creating suffering in a world that is already so full of it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be mindful of how people react to you as an indicator of your own behavior.
Well, like,
Right?
and
If everybody is walking away from you grumbling and angry, maybe it's you. So I think it's important to be mindful. You struck on a word that rings a loud bell for me, remorse, and you're talking about remorse. And this is something
accountability.
that I would say was a powerful force that even led me to Buddhism.
Hmm.
And I've talked about this openly here on this channel before about my history recovering from alcoholism, right? Remorse was such a giant part of that because of feeling guilty and feeling remorse for the behavior prevents a lot of the healing that's necessary to move on with you,
Hmm.
right? And so you're spending a lot of your time, really, for me, especially in active addiction, knowing you need to stop, knowing you want to stop, completely disgusted and dealing with, self-loathing and those kinds of
Yeah.
um,
And unwholesome
you know,
formations. Yeah.
you'll have maybe, I think it's a common experience for people who are trying to quit that you'll have some good days and then you fail again. And then it just adds to that cycle of like, I'm a failure. And then you feel the remorse all the time. So it's just that hamster wheel of guilt and remorse over
Hmm.
and over again, which is a major example for dukkha, one of
Right.
the three marks of existence. Another yet mark of existence, though, well, the other two, impermanence and then also non self, right? Impermanence can lead you to realize that this isn't going to last forever.
And
And
there's
then,
no alternative, right?
right.
Yeah.
And it allows you maybe to, when you're dealing with pain, that, to endure this pain, it won't last forever. But also the concept of non-self, which is really a difficult concept for people that aren't familiar with the teaching to, I think, grasp. The idea of no permanent self, that we are like a process, we are
Hmm.
like the five aggregates all. It
Yeah.
allows me to see that I'm not the same person I was when I'm a process. I don't need to feel the remorse for the things I did when I was that different person. And
Hmm.
it allows me that window of opportunity for forgiveness, self forgiveness to start creeping in and for healing to truly begin. I went through a lot of years trying to recover 12-step programs and things like that, which are very in ways that those programs like Buddhism ask you to do a lot of self-reflection. In a way, without using the word mindfulness, it's asking you to be mindful and to do self-inventory and exploration. And you realize that you are always in flux. You are always impermanent. You're not the same person. You're not a fixed entity that is just one thing, that you're a failure, you're bad,
Yeah.
you're always going to be this. No, I don't have to be any of that anymore. I'm
Yeah.
new, every day. It like moves on. You're always a you're always in process. You're always in flux. And if you're mindful, and if you have some kind of like wholesome framework that you can sort of walk the path of, things just start to get better.
Mm.
You just start to
Indeed.
heal, and you start to have better sort of understanding, compassion for others that have been through the shoes that you've kind of walked in, and just it just makes life easier in general, these concepts.
Mm. Yeah, in all ways. And to kind of coattail on that idea of non-self a little bit, you made me think of maybe I could ask the audience or listener something you could do to see the truth of impermanence and non-self is maybe just record yourself for like 2 hours Or maybe when like people are in the room and you're talking and then you're like doing your daily tasks and just watch study yourself and then see how you're gradually changing throughout the day and how it's
Mm.
like just your mood changes or your condition, and then that informs how you're thinking, what your mental state is, and that um, I feel like that's just a really practical way of demonstrating that mark of existence, which is really important for us because we're human, right? And humans have all kinds of conceits about who we are, what we do. We tell a long durée story about what our life is about. It's almost like a narrative, and we're taught to do that. It's ingrained in our cultures, it's ingrained in everyday life that and then other people will insist that their story about you is what matters, and then that grinds our gears, so impermanence
Yeah,
and
because we want to fix
non-self.
it. We want to see,
Yeah.
we want them to have, our concept of
Mhm.
what, who we are instead.
Man, I'm telling it is true, and I'm telling this to everybody, whoever is watching this, that one of my biggest like pet peeves is being mischaracterized. That is like a huge thing that I have to. That is like a Dharma gate every time, and I always crash right into the door. I'm like, oh, not again. But
For those who might not be aware about what a Dharma gate is, do you want to tell us?
well, what about you? You haven't. I know you can explain it, so why not you, Ocean?
Well, from my perspective, a Dharma gate is basically similarly to how a gate in a garden is your entrance into the garden. A
Hmm.
Dharma gate is your entrance into the Dharma. It's how you encounter the teaching, how you encounter the things that the Buddha talked about. And you go, oh yeah, life really is kind of dissatisfying. Or oh yeah, it doesn't really stay the same for very long before it just changes, and that kind of sucks too.
Hmm.
You know, and those are all Dharma gates.
Yeah, it's
Basically, anything that happens to you is a potential Dharma gate. In the Zen tradition, we say during the four great vows, Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them.
hmm.
Yeah,
I
neat.
always love that too. That's I always greatly admire Soto Zen, but I have to do it vicariously. No, I do it too. Like currently I'm in Rochester, New York, and I am there's a historic Zen center here, and I get to do zazen and kinin there, do the whole nine. Um, but I also have a Dharma gate right now, which is a knee injury. I never had a knee injury before, and man, do they take a while. So I have to remind
It's
myself
a
of
really sensitive
impermanence.
part of your body. I mean,
Yeah,
anytime you want to move, basically,
yep,
your knee is engaged. So and it being a joint that wears out over time as you get old, probably it is not fun. I can imagine. I've
right.
had a gentle knee injury, and that wasn't very fun. And it still took like maybe a month before before it was
Stay
starting to feel
hydrated.
good.
I swear, I think it's the best advice anybody for joints and these kinds of things is really hydration. People
Yeah,
don't drink enough water.
I
Plain
could
and
definitely
simple.
do more of that for sure.
Yeah.
Just see how much you change. Like,
That's not water. That was Sprite. I saw the green label.
oh, this is a brand in New York. It's called Poland Spring.
Poland
Uh,
Springs. Okay,
yeah,
good,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, actually, I done away with soda, so and that
Good. Yeah, good.
talk about
Very cool.
non-self. That was actually a big part of myself that I had to put on in check. It was like I used to be super addicted to like Mountain Dew. So you mentioned sense addiction, alcoholism. There, like I keep saying, there's other forms of addiction, and they're
Oh,
just
yeah.
as bad, or they can be. Even just like bad diet or bad, y- you know, um, being prone to frustration or irritable.
Social media.
Social media, big one,
Oh,
big
here we
one.
go again.
Well,
But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. There are people who will spend hours each day on their phone,
when it
which that cannot be good for your mind.
right, right, and what did Prince say? It's a sign of the times.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, but no, but yeah, social media. It's like everything has its. We are the middle way people, okay? The middle path, right? Like there's everything has a use, everything can be misused. Everything could be abused. So everything and anything, even even samadhi, right? Ocean.
Right.
Yeah, fortunately for me, my mind prevents me from being able to abuse it in the first
Oh,
place. But, or maybe that's unfortunate. I don't know.
oh.
But
Well, I'm
yeah,
giving a shout out to Roshi because he always says there's these samadhi junkies. And
yeah, he does say that. Yeah, and it's
yeah,
true. And
because
it's true. I can imagine someone getting a little too fond of that and then spending all day, every day, maybe even days at a time in meditation.
I just don't know
Um,
how people can sit that long. I mean, without my legs can't do it for extended periods of time. I have to get up and walk around.
it's not good for you, especially for your knees, to be contracted like that for longer than maybe an hour at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I agree. I think maybe if you're going to meditate for long periods of time, after an hour, you should get up. 'Cause, like, if you, first of all, if you haven't gotten to samadhi after an hour, you should probably get up anyway just to do something else for your mind and then maybe try again later because, for me, it's like, well, if it doesn't happen in 30 minutes, it's probably just not going to happen. It's the conditions just aren't there. So
yeah, absolutely.
probably better off going for a walk for your
Well,
knees and your legs.
well, you probably know you do know this well, Ocean, is that Buddhism. We always focus. Sorry, let me change that. We tend to focus on seated meditation, but in Buddhism, there's also yoga, right? Like we also like the Buddha practiced yoga, the early Sangha did. So there was, and they, you know, walked quite a bit. Uh, so there's activity is also essential to the practice, I think. And
Oh,
even
big time. Yeah.
yeah,
There are other forms of meditation. I truly,
yeah,
honestly, even if when I'm doing walking meditation, I can get to where I'm like focused on my steps and I'm feeling the earth under my feet and I'm paying attention. I can be focused kind of on what I'm doing, but I don't think in any kind of like physical form of meditation or active form of meditation am I getting anywhere close to like a jhana or something like that.
uh,
It's for
I
me
don't,
to
yeah, that's
like
a good
get into those
question.
deeper samadhi types of meditation. I've got to be sitting. At least at this point in my practice.
So for the viewers who might not know, jhana is basically a type of meditative absorption where you enter a state of heightened concentration. You feel a sense of expanded awareness. People will report a variety of different experiences in that state, but it's a type of concentration that really can only come when you're very absorbed in whatever is your object. So in zazen practice, it would be the breath. You become so absorbed in the breath that everything else kind of falls away, and you're only focused in that moment. But when it comes to other activities, it's almost a little bit like flow state, which is kind of a modern word that people will be able to understand. It's a
yeah,
little bit like that. So if you're doing an activity and you're very absorbed in it and you're not thinking about anything else and just doing that one activity, samadhi is a little bit like that, but I think maybe to a greater extent because when you're in flow state, you're still thinking.
absolutely. Like to say in the zone, you're in the zone, and you
In the
have
zone, yeah,
these
right.
or yeah, in martial arts. We talked about Wu Wei and Mushin, which is
Also,
no mind.
I would offer, because I know both of you are writers. When you're writing and you get into a flow state in your writing as well,
Absolutely, yeah,
it's very similar to that. Where I mean, hours go by that feel like 10 minutes.
yeah,
Exactly, right. So there's a sense of time being almost like subjective. Like it's not really um, impeding the way that you interact with the experience. It's just effortless activity that's just happening, and you don't have to train your mind too much. Just kind of flowing so naturally. And so we would call that, from a Taoist perspective, that might be called Wu Wei,
yeah,
which
Yeah,
Nico alluded to. It's like that effortless, non-resistance type state.
right.
yeah. And well, and to be fair though, for Buddhism, there's a concept about that is similar. Rather than I feel like that's why it's so compatible in the Chinese tradition is because they have a lot in common, especially for the naturalistic explanations for what happens when we're in the zone or in the flow state. And one of them is called aimlessness in English. And then remember, like, do you remember, guys, that we actually came to this consensus where we're like, actually, Wu Wei would be a better way of phrasing this. It would be like, because it's more akin to like Wu Wei, which is effortless activity, like, albeit skillful activity, right? Like where you're able to do things
Right.
without resisting, you flow like water. Um,
It's
actually,
just funny to me because it like aimlessness, but it's such a rigid practice. Like you're rigidly practicing aimlessness.
But aimlessness, I think, is at least from my perception, albeit limited. It feels more like a Zen branch, where it's like, okay, like you don't want to have any kind of goal particularly, rather you just want to be absorbed in the experience.
hmm,
And to an American, like aimlessness, what? You know, like what? I'm supposed to just not care about anything and just do whatever and walk around. Oh, whatever, you know. But I don't think it's like that at all.
no,
It's
it's
just
not.
a kind of a misnomer, honestly, or like a misleading word. It's
I
like
I honestly
I think you
see.
were describing it quite well, actually, Peace, about
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
like Wu Wei flow state, non-resistance. You're in the
Hmm.
zone. You're happily doing the right thing without having to give it much thought. It just becomes natural, and that
Yes.
doesn't mean that you don't resist or make an effort to stop misdeeds. Or, okay, that's another misconception about Wu Wei is that, oh, everything's all good. We don't have to. You know, my family's being beaten. Okay, it's all good. Like that is not at all. Like you should help people when they're in need. That is part of the Wu Wei. Is that naturally you have this compassion to do something. You know, when
Yeah.
there's injustice.
Absolutely. And you know how to react skillfully. Like you know how to be
Exactly. Yeah.
proactive, not reactive, and that's like a
Hmm.
that's a skill that you learn. And actually, so nowadays, what you described, Ocean, kind of has been discussed these days in the colloquial sense as like toxic positivity, where people will say, "Ah, it doesn't matter, man. Just take a shroom; it'll be all right." Like, you know, the bills will be paid for somehow, and then it's like, well, you gotta pay the bills, man. Like, I'm sorry, that's um, you know,
Yeah. You don't want to be complacent or
yeah,
complicit. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, yeah,
Definitely. So this is another one of those uh, ideas where you want to have balance. You don't want to be too. You don't want to be a doormat and just let people walk over you and mistreat you. Because that sucks. Nobody likes that. And you don't want to be like overbearing and trying to control
mm,
the circumstance either. You want to have this ability to just kind of flow like a leaf down a river. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
The leaf isn't trying to fight the circumstance. It's like, okay, I'm in a river. I flow with it, and therefore it becomes effortless. You know?
yeah, indeed, and
You want to be able to dance in the rain instead of having to shake your fist at the clouds.
hmm, yeah, that's a good analogy. Like, actually, since I we were having a conversation about things like that, things that are irritants, right? Kind of like rain upon your head, kind of just non-stop deluge of annoyance and irritation. And I feel like Buddhists don't talk about that enough, and because we we do, and then we have a way of dealing with it, right? We had that discussion about of the three marks of existence, right, and how that is a practical tool and
Right.
application for this. And
Yeah.
so I was wondering, since do you have any thoughts on this over the
Well,
since our
it's
conversation?
interesting that you bring it up because I've really kind of been thinking a lot about this because am very much a product of my upbringing, my Western upbringing,
Mm,
product of my current environment. We live in a world that seems ever more topsy turvy by the day. Um, and grew up a Christian, and now I'm practicing. I've committed. I've taken the precepts. It's been a couple of years now. I'm practicing Buddhism officially, and it's a major part of my life now.
mm,
Um, and I was thinking, it probably seems maybe to others that this taking on of Buddhism might be like a radical thing. It doesn't, nothing was in an indicator that this would be where I would, steer my spiritual life as I got older. Uh, But yet, when we talk about like the marks of existence, or we talk about the Four Noble Truths, or we talked about the practicality of the Noble Eightfold Path, right action, right speech, right livelihood, these kinds of things that we do with our behavior.
Mm.
Buddhism is so much less radical and more just like innately what I've always sort of believed and kind of expressed in my life before I could give it name. Um, Whereas Buddhism is looking in deeply into a flower and seeing that it's made of the cloud, dirt, and everything else that goes into it, and that it's not a thing that just arose all on its own and
Yeah.
decided to be there, so it's there. And so we start like picking apart like how all this works, and it's makes sense to me. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of obvious. Well, everything has a cause. Okay, well, that had a cause, and that had a cause, and that had a cause, and that had a cause too. And then, well, geez, these causes go on for infinity. And
It's really cool to see that how interconnected things are. And
bam,
there is
and that's
not a single thing that you can look at where it's not like that. And that's what brings so much awe back into your life.
oh my God, because I always felt so like alone in a crowd and disconnected and part of it, but not really. And like I could get along with like a wide variety of people, but never, really a part of any. And now all of a sudden I'm like, hey, man, I'm part of the whole show. And it
Yeah.
feels like I'm like
Literally.
way more grounded and way more connected than I ever felt before.
Agreed. Yeah, I also
Yeah.
feel that.
Ace, this has been a wonderful and timely reunion. Guys, gentlemen, I am so happy to have you and um, privileged. So thank you so
Yeah, it's a
much.
lot of fun.
We can be three's manjushri, right? That's the Japanese saying. The three of us are together again. It feels um, just I just can't take it for granted. So thank you so much. This present moment is a beautiful, wonderful moment, as the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh would like to say. So, to wrap it up, guys, again, if you made it this far, thank you so much, and sadhu, sadhu, sadhu to you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.